Hi, my name is Cindy Rang with the Fabric Patch in Ephrata, Washington. You can find us at fabricpatch.net. And today we are doing block number 7 of our Jaye's Bouquet block of the month. All right, block number 7 of our gorgeous block of the month that we're working on. This is Corey's Jaye's Bouquet, and what's really fun about this is that every month is an embroidered block and a very simple pieced block. And so sometimes, I think last month we did the embroidery block and the pieced block together in one class because it was like just a half log cabin, super simple. This month we're going to talk about how to piece this block today, and then in 2 weeks we will talk about this beautiful thistle embroidery. And a lot of these are stitches that we've already covered in previous blocks, but we are going to talk about this wheat stitch right here that's in the back, so we'll be demonstrating that. And then we'll keep working through them. So you can find all of these previous ones on our YouTube channel, and you will need the pattern. Hopefully you've been following along with your pattern. She does do these beautiful full-size colored panels and pattern pages, and each one includes all of the stitching information for the hand stitch block, and then all of the piecing and cutting information for the pieced block, and then she gives you a really large close-up picture of the hand embroidery for what she's doing. And then what we've been doing all along is we've been showing you kind of some bonus stitches, some extra things in case you wanted to add something a little bit extra to each block. So we've been embellishing a little bit differently as we go along. So, all right, so again, we're doing block number 7. These are the 2 pieces that we're doing. Super simple. Really what we're going to talk about is just a fun little trick for this block, but very simple piecing, which makes it kind of fun. And so, and again, in the pattern, she gives you all of the directions along the side here. All right, so we're going to look down here and talk about our pieces. Okay, so again, for block number 7, it's these 2 blocks, super simple, and of course she tells us in here the exact measurements, how to cut everything, and I'm going to show you one little variation that I made. So the first one is just a square and a square. We're not going to sew this one together. It's just super easy. So we just have our pieces, and then we're going to sew this one. Oops, that's not the right one. And sew the piece down here to make our little square and a square. That's the top one. The other thing I wanted to mention on that is that on this one, she also then tells us to do a little fly stitch on this, and I'll show you that at the end of the video. The other one, though, that we're going to spend our time on is this quarter square right here, quarter square triangle block. So she has us cut our squares, and we have, these are all 2.5-inch squares. So we've got our background and our center. You might put something a little more interesting in your center if you want to. And then she has 4 different colors here. What I decided to do is I decided to make this color my background so that my star fits in there just a little bit different. You can do anything you want, but she's telling you that you need 2 squares of this one, 1 square of this one, and 1 square of this one. And she's telling you to do 4 1/8. I went ahead and decided to do 4 1/4, just so I have a little bit more space to go ahead and square them up. And I picked a shock cotton, and a shock cotton, because it's a woven fabric, you might see a little bit more of this, but of course you don't have to worry about that as you sew it and put it in your block. That's not going to be an issue, but I have my 2 that are going to be my star point pieces. I have my center piece that's going to be this one, and then again, I'm just doing my background the same. So what I'm going to start with is I'm going to start with put these right sides together, and then I'm going to draw my line. There we go. Draw my line, and after I've drawn my line, I'm going to use my little... This is a friction marker. Doesn't look like it, but it is. I'm going to go ahead and draw my line. And then once I've drawn my line, I'm going to sew 1/4 inch on this side and 1/4 inch on this side. And I'm going to do the same thing on this one, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so we've sewn 1/4 inch on both sides of that line. So now I'm just going to cut these apart. And then I'm going to press them open. Now is the time to mention that I am doing my 1/4 square triangle blocks very, very different from the way that Corey is telling you to do it. A lot of people will tell you to go ahead and take your square, cut it into 4 triangles, and then piece this whole thing together. I'm just going to show you what I think is a little easier way. That way you don't have to deal with all of those biases while you're sewing those together. All right, so, and that's why we cut these 4 1/4, just to give us a little bit of room for squaring up, and I'm going to show you that trick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two, and I've pressed them to the green, and so then that way I'm going to lock this one here. I'm going to do the same thing here. Green is going to be opposite, if that makes sense. And we're going to lock them here. And I'll show you the little trick to this. The trick is that you will feel that that is locked right in there, because this piece is locking in with that piece right there. So they're locked right there together. Everything is right where it should be. And then when I line this up to draw my line from here to here, I'm also then going to line this up this way just to make sure I have this nice straight line right through the center using my friction marker. And then I'm going to go to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew 1/4 inch on this side and 1/4 inch on this side on both of these blocks, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so it looks like this. So again, we sewed 1/4 inch on both sides, and then I'm going to cut this apart because then that's what we end up with, right? So after we've cut this, and then we're going to press that open. Now, even if we were going to use the 4 1/8 measurement that she used, we were obviously going to square those up. You'll see that my 4 1/4, I just have to square up just a little bit more, but it's always kind of nice just to be able to have that little extra, just in case something gets a little bit wonky. We cut off a little bit of an edge, and that way we end up with exactly the size that we want. So for squaring these up, there's a couple things that need to happen. We certainly need to make sure that this is right in the center and that we don't lose any points. So the way that you do that is, let's review our markers. We have the friction marker, which is the heat away marker, and then we have this one, which is the wet erase marker. I use this marker almost every single day. Whenever I'm squaring anything up with my ruler, I want to make sure and put marks on my ruler. Now, I've seen little sticky things that people will put on their rulers, which is great, but this works really, really well because I can just go ahead and mark the indicators that I want. I hope you can see the green on the green mat. I hope that was okay. Can they see it?
No, but here is a white.
Let me find a little white paper.
Yeah.
There we go. There we go. Ha ha. That's good. Okay, so 1, 2 1/2. That's the size that I'm going to trim these blocks, is to 2 1/2. Then I come over here, 2 1/2, and then it's going to come to here, 2 1/2. And if I either made a mistake or I've changed my mind, the way to take off this mark is just with a wet paper towel, a wet napkin, a wet finger, anything that you'd like. But what's really, really nice is that because it's a wet erase, it's not going to rub off with my hand pressing on the ruler, and it's not going to rub off with my fabric. And so it works really nice. So I've got my 2 1/2, 2 1/2, 2 1/2 right here. The other thing I want to know is I want to know the center measurement. So the center of this block, 1 1/4 by 1 1/4, the center of this block is right there. Do you see that? All right, so now that we have our block measured, our ruler, measured, now what we'll do is we'll square these up. So all we have to do, here's the center. We're going to put the center right on top of our center right there. We have this one right in the point. This one is right in the point, right on the point, and right on the point. Do you see all of those little markers? I have 5 points that I'm checking. Center, right on the edge, 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 edge. And since I'm using my nice non-slip ruler, and if you don't have this, maybe at least have something else that's going to make sure that it's that it's grippy and non-slip, because we're going to cut 2 sides at once. I'm going to cut across the side, turn and cut across the top, and then I'm going to turn it, and it should be easy enough. I'm just going to line it up right down here. Same thing is going to happen. Side, top, and here is my perfect 2.5 inch quarter square triangle, and I have perfect points on all 4 points, and it's right in the center. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat this with all 4 of these. Press these, trim all of these, and I'll end up with my 4 blocks, and then we'll go ahead and put this together. Okay, here's my last one. One thing to mention is that, again, I rounded my blocks up to 4 1/4 just because I think that's a little easier measurement to cut. And also I wanted to make sure that I had enough excess to be able to trim. This is probably more than you need, but it's always really nice to be able to square up those blocks so that they're perfect. The worst thing for me is sometimes when people sew the blocks this way, where they do their squares, cut everything into triangles, sew them all back together, depending upon seam allowance and just the twist sometimes that will happen with bias, you end up with kind of a wonky square. So it's always nice to be able to piece it, then square it up, then everything works out great. So again, for me, the other thing that I did different is I went ahead and did my background here, just because I kind of liked, I think it's a little more modern look. I kind of like that a little bit. And now all I'm going to do is just a basic 9 patch. So I'm going to sew my 3 rows together and then sew them together horizontally, and I'm all done. Press my block and we're done. Okay, we're going to look at Jen's beautiful quilt for a little wrap up here. So these were the 2 blocks that we did. We just did the simple little square to square, and we did the little quarter square triangle block. And again, once you've sewn these together, these will be 6.5 by 12.5 and finish at 6 by 12 in your block. One last thing I want to mention is using your friction marker. Just draw 4 simple little lines right here, and then just go ahead and do your fly stitch. We covered fly stitch in class number 1 and class number 2, if you need a little refresher on that one. And then in 2 weeks, we are going to stitch our thistle block. All of these are stitches that we've already done before. I think we're going to go ahead and review, though, a French knot up here at the top. And then I'm going to show you how to make this wheat stitch, also known as the wheat ear stitch. And so we'll do this, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you for watching our video. We invite you to leave a comment, hit the like button, or better yet, subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. You can also visit our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or Pinterest pages, or find all of those things and our online store at fabricpatch.net.